Welcome to the Vault XL. Thank you for joining me. I would like to thank all my fans and viewers for your kind words. The Queen was under the weather and trying to get back right, but thank you for your kind words and concerns. Thank you so very kindly. I'm going to be backtracking from 2 weeks ago pertaining to Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 murders, and also we'll be bringing you some older content pertaining to the Cal City boys and the lawsuit that the Bio family had brought forward. So I'm going to do a little backtracking. Excuse the delay, but nonetheless, it's all still breaking news as I speak. Let's start off with Jacqueline and Trezell West. A lot of information has come out pertaining to this case. Hearing is set. Trial date, jury selection, all that is going forward. And I'm going to bring you that said information. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to the Vault XL. Thank you for your time. Bakersfield Now is the source.
Trezell and Jacqueline West, the parents charged with murdering their 4- and 3-year-old adopted sons, were in court today for a motions hearing. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rochelle Garcia.
And I'm Michael Patterson. David Kaplan was in the courtroom and explains what the schedule is for the upcoming trial. David.
Around a dozen friends and family members of the biological parents of Orrin and Orson West were at the hearing. Some tell me they plan on being here throughout the trial. Judge Charles Bremer said a tentative schedule is set for the trial. There will be jury selection March 20th through March 24th, opening statements March 28th, closing arguments June 1st, and deliberations June 2nd. Today, attorneys for Trezell and Jacqueline West both confirmed witnesses from the Department of Human Services they want to bring back tomorrow. Timothy Hennessy, Trezell's attorney, said he filed an affidavit request from the Department of Human Services, which he expects to be ready by Monday. The judge said after the media and the public left, he and the attorneys were going to speak on different issues. The Wests are accused of killing 4-year-old Orrin and 3-year-old Orson about 3 months prior to when they reported them missing December 21st, 2020, from their California City home. The couple claims the boys were playing outside while Trezell gathered firewood. He said he briefly went inside, and when he came back out, the boys had vanished. The bodies of the boys were never found. The Wests are charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child cruelty, among other charges. Tomorrow morning, the judge and the attorneys will go over what is called a trombata motion. A trombata motion is when an attorney files a request that the judge dismiss the case because evidence has either been destroyed or lost. That will not be open to the public, but the ruling on it will be. Live in downtown Bakersfield, David Kaplan, Eyewitness News.
Okay, everybody. That is the set information. Hope you all heard that. If you need verification, you want to hear it again, Bakersfield Now is the source. I'm going to recap what was said in that audio. Tuesday, Trezell and Jacqueline West, the parents charged with murdering their 4- and 3-year-old adoptive sons, were in court Tuesday for a motions hearing. Around a dozen friends and family members of the biological parents of Orrin and Orson West were at the hearing. Some tell Eyewitness News they're planning on being there throughout the trial. Judge Charles Bremer said a tentative schedule is set for trial. There will be jury selection March 20th through March 24th, opening statements March 28th, closing arguments June 1st, and deliberations June 2nd. Tuesday, attorneys for Trezell and Jacqueline West both confirmed witnesses from the Department of Human Services they want to bring back Wednesday. Timothy Hennessy, Trezell's attorney, said he filed an affidavit request from the Department of Human Services, which he expects to be ready by Monday. The judge said after the media and the public left, he and the attorneys were going to speak on different issues. The Wests are accused of killing Orrin, 4-year-old Orrin, 3-year-old Orson about 3 months prior to when they reported them missing December 21st, 2020, from their California City home. The couple claims the boys were playing outside while Trezell gathered firewood. He said he briefly went inside, and when he came back out, the boys had vanished. The bodies of the boys were never found. The West are charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child cruelty, among other charges. Tomorrow morning, the judge and attorneys will go over a trombetta motion. A trombetta motion, for those who don't know how to spell this odd name, Trombetta, never heard of this before, is when an attorney files a request to judge dismiss the case because the evidence has been destroyed or lost. That will not be open to the public, as you heard in this audio, but the ruling will be. So, no cameras, obviously, I guess, to report this information, but we will get information pertaining to this trombetta ruling. This is very disturbing to me because what I'd like to know is what evidence that the defense is claiming has been destroyed or lost. Because it says here, the trombetta motion is when an attorney files a request for the judge to dismiss the case because evidence has been destroyed or lost. This is disturbing to me because what is the evidence that has been lost and destroyed? Why in God's name would anyone be destroying evidence in this case pertaining to two small children? And it's not to say that things don't get lost and destroyed, but when I think of destroyed, I think of someone doing it deliberately. So what are you all saying here? What is it that is lost and what is destroyed? And is it something that could get these people off or aid them to being innocent? Is this a case that these two are innocent and this evidence destroyed or lost will show that these two did not kill the children? But as you heard in this commentary, there is evidentiary material that they did aid in the children's deaths. My understanding is that the children are participants in the deaths of the children. This was known early on. We did not know this information until a year later, which was very disturbing to me, and I'm sure very disturbing to the public and people who have a vested interest in the children. While this time, you're putting up billboards and signs saying you're looking for the children. So what is the issue here? So did these two kill these kids or not? Because if you're going to show, if the state is going to show that they aided in the deaths of the children, they have information to show that they aided in the children's deaths. The children aided in the deaths of these babies, and also to show that they have lied to the state or other people, persons about the disappearance of the children. Excuse me. Then that will show that, I'm assuming in court, it will show they murdered the kids for whatever reason. And that's also going to be a question on the books as well to many people. Why did you kill the children? Why did you use your kids to kill the children? You had to have known when somebody was going to come questioning you about the kids, maybe not biological family because they had no more ties to the kids, but your own family, whoever you were friends with, neighbors. Hey, where are your children? I haven't seen your kids. I mean, that's just a normal question people ask when they know that you have children. Hey, where's your child? Where are your children? Where are your boys? So this trombetta hearing is very disturbing to me because I'm trying to figure out what is the evidence that's been destroyed or lost. And is this evidence that can exonerate the two? But then if it can exonerate the two, then the state's information will be contradictory because they're saying they have information to show that they aided in the deaths and covered up the disappearance and the deaths of the boys. Let's go a little farther back pertaining to this very baffling case out of Cal City, Bakersfield, California. Thank you for joining me. Ooh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. This is from, I believe this is called Antelope Valley Press. This is information that came out the 1st of February. Thank you for joining me. A federal judge dismissed a $40 million lawsuit filed against the Kern County Department of Human Services and others by the California City brothers' biological family because it lacks a factual basis to prove their allegations against defendants, according to an order filed Monday. Mother Ryan Dean and paternal grandmother Dana Moore claimed County DHS negligently allowed Trezell and Jacqueline West to adopt Orrin 4, Orson West 3, which has led to the boys dying. Both also alleged in their complaint filed in June that social workers violated their civil rights when removing the brothers from their care despite fulfilling every requirement to regain their custody. Dean's lawyer, San Francisco-based civil rights attorney Joaquin McCoy, did not return multiple requests for comment on Monday. Trezell and Jacqueline West have pleaded not guilty to 2 second-degree murder charges, a single involuntary manslaughter charge, 2 felonies, a willful cruelty to children, felony conspiracy, and a misdemeanor of falsely reporting an emergency on the deaths of Orrin and Orson. A Kern County Superior Court judge said Monday a criminal trial for this case could begin in March. United States Court and Eastern District Judge John A. Mendez wrote in his order that Kim Johnson, the director of the California Department of Social Services and a defendant in the lawsuit, is shielded under sovereign immunity, which doesn't allow a state official to be sued in their official capacity. That's because the charges stem from potential violations of the office and not a singular person, according to the order handed down Friday. Even if Johnson is sued in her individual capacity, both plaintiffs failed to substantiate any claim, this is in quotation, against Johnson and other defendants who are former Kern County DHS Director Dina Murphy and a social worker. It notes Dean and Moore may refile a second complaint within 20 days, the opinion said. Dean said Orrin was taken away from her in 2016 after she took him to Memorial Hospital to treat broken bones, according to her lawsuit. Orson was born 1 year later and was taken away by Kern County Sheriff's deputies because they removed siblings together, according to previous reporting. The boys were with another family, but then Child Protective Services, without provocation, placed them into the West home, previous reporting said. That's when Dean saw a noticeable change in her child, such as scratches and losing weight, and requested to regain her custody, but was denied by County DHS, the lawsuit added. Dean and Moore took required classes to once again be reunited with the toddlers, but CPS allowed the West to formally adopt them in 2020, the lawsuit said. The maternal grandfather, Leaf Dean, has filed a separate lawsuit requesting $100 million from the same people. Lord have mercy. It also alleges Dean's civil rights were violated when the boys were given to Trezell and Jacqueline West. Leaf Dean is represented by McCoy Ryan, Dean's attorney. So that makes no sense. You're suing for a certain amount of money, and obviously the mother and the daughter are suing for a certain amount from the same attorney. This makes no sense to me. Charles and Brenda Pettis, the father and paternal grandmother, respectively, of Orrin and Orson West, also filed a wrongful death and negligence lawsuit against County DHS, saying negligent hiring led to severe emotional distress from the toddlers. This litigation is still pending, and a hearing is scheduled for February 3rd in Kern County. A Kern County Superior Court judge said Monday the murder trial for the adoptive parents of the brothers could begin in March. Judge Charles Brimmer set a status conference for February 16th to see if attorneys still believe they will be ready by March 1st. Brimmer anticipates attorneys will discuss the motions on the date and then begin jury selection. Orrin and Orson West were reported missing by their adoptive parents in December 2020, but Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer alleged in March 2022 that the adoptive parents killed the boys in September 2020, 3 months before the brothers were reported missing. If you need verification for this information, avpress.com is the source of this information. So I'm going to say this from this information. The federal judge threw out a $40 million lawsuit, and I'm assuming that's pertaining to Ryan Dean and her mother, her own mother. Then we have her father also filing $100 million suit, also represented by the same attorney representing Miss Dean, his daughter, which most will say this is just a money pit. These people just wanting money for abuse to these children, because in the end, you entitled to your opinion. I've given my very strong opinions pertaining to this case and all the shenanigans pertaining to the Bio family. My thing is the obvious. DHS does not walk around in cloaks and daggers looking for your children and looking to take your children. Can a mistake be made as far as an allegation against you, as far as abuse or your behavior? Of course. Does it mean you're a bad person because perhaps you combine with a little alcohol, a little weed? No. But in the end, you are responsible for your children. So whatever you're imbibing, taking, it will have an exact result in child rearing. That's common sense. And I refuse to believe the state just happened upon these kids and decided to take them one at a time. The fact that this woman took her child to the hospital would lead you to use deduction. The child was possibly hollering and screaming at the top of his lungs because he was in pain. He was either hollering or screaming, or he was subdued. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the point is, a child who can't walk can't break his own leg. I think we know this. Same for a toddler. He or she walks, but how would he or she break his or her own leg? Common sense. A human broke it. The only way a child, even walking, could only break his or her leg is if they fell out of a window, fell out of a moving car, something like that. Climbed onto something very tall and then fell out onto the ground, concrete. But a child who can't even sit up, feed themselves, how would their leg, arm become broke? Once again, common sense. Why would the state leave the child in your custody when no one is taking responsibility, number one, for the broken leg, cracked leg, however you want to word it? That's number one. Okay? Number two, the hospital did their job by reporting it to DHS because that is their job. They are a mandate reporter. Anything that looks suspicious involving a child or elderly person, that is the hospital's job to notify Adult Protective Services or Department of Human Services. That is their job. And they have common sense that, once again, this is a baby. So a baby can't break his own leg when he or she cannot, one, walk, cannot sit up, cannot roll over. So how would their leg become broke? Cracked? It wouldn't. So you have no one taking responsibility. To this day, I've never heard of anyone owning responsibility for the cracked leg, broke leg. The hospital did due diligence by the state. And as I had brought you information moons ago pertaining to the disposition of the bio mother was not good. Her living arrangements, moving from place to place, staying place to place, never keeping adequate housing, car, so on and so forth. Not a good match for being a mother. And then to continuously keep having children, that's a bad sign. And in the end, this same person also has two other children that at last time I was speaking to someone, she never seemed to be interested in those two children. And to this day, with all this wrangling about Orrin and Orson, you still never hear about the other two older children by Miss Ryan Dean or any other entities to come forward and just tell the truth that, hey, besides these two that are allegedly dead, there's no conversation about the two older children. So it's as if those two children never existed. And these are things I don't like to keep dwelling on, but it has to be said because it's a part of the storyline. Second child removed a year later after being in the mother's custody 1 week. And as you heard in this commentary, it says that usually children are removed together if there are more children in the household and there's a case of abuse. So rather be two children in the house, 3, 4, 7, however, the state will remove all of them. And that makes sense. Why would you leave other children in the house if one had a broke arm, broke leg? That makes no sense. So she waited a year later, had a baby, another baby. That child was only in her custody 1 week. So that means the state found out she had another child and decided to remove that child as well. And that is for cautionary reasoning. So see, you don't know all the ins and outs of a case because I've learned when it comes to dealing with DHS and anything involving the law, period, I said many people are never going to tell you the truth about what went on in their household. They're not going to tell you exactly how they were living, what they were doing, things they were imbibing in, the company they kept, the kind of people they were around, leaving their children with different people. And when you live in a house that is not your own, anything can happen to your child. That's just common sense. If you have different people running in and out of your home, anything can happen. You take your child and drop your child off with different people, and they keep a lot of different company, riffraff running in and out of the house. Anything can happen to your child. That's expected because you don't know people. And the people that you think you don't know them. So what I say to you is that if a child, whether he is an infant or a toddler, hell, could even be 10 years old, if a person is bold enough and sick enough to break a leg, they're sick enough to break an arm, they're sick enough to break the entire body, they're sick enough to kill the baby. So how is it different with the West? And that's the one thing I never could make a lot of people understand. Some of you like to compare the two. How was one better than the other? Because the fact that the state got involved should tell you the children were in danger in the mother's custody, or the state would have never removed them. And if you can't understand a broke leg on a child that can't even walk, that means there's something wrong with you. So they were doomed from the beginning. And it's just sad that they went to another relative's house or another person's house. Do not know who that person is. I'd like to know why they were removed from that place before getting to the West. So you see, I believe there's more to the story. As always, when it comes to true crime, there's always more to the story, and there's always people who will not reveal the truth to why this, and this happened. And that's what you're getting with this Cow City mess. No one's going to ever tell the truth of what they did and didn't do to get the kids gone in the first place. Nobody's going to admit, yeah, I broke the leg. Yeah, I abused the kid. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I was getting high. I was doing this while pregnant, while rearing my children. Who's going to tell that? And we heard her speak, Miss Dean, to Court TV that she missed a course, but there was a reason for that. Well, that's not really good enough. Because this article makes it seem like she and the mother complied with said courses they were supposed to take in order to get the children back. But during the Court TV segment a couple months ago, that is not what she told Vinnie Politan. So you see, you have to keep up with the information. And it's one thing I've learned that my father told me. Sometimes it's best to listen, because that's how you'll find out the truth to the information that has been given to you. People will talk long enough to where they will contradict themselves, which in the street is called lying. Because you see, when you tell a story over and over and over, eventually a little bit of the truth will seep out, and you will start to realize, that's not the version I got the first, second, third time. Well, it can't be the truth. It won't be the truth. How can it be the truth if it's a lie? You see, people give you bits and pieces of the truth. But one thing I've learned about repeating things repetitively, and it's a lie, eventually you will slip up and you will tell on yourself. So I do not believe Miss Dean complied with everything that was asked of her while trying to regain custody of her children. Because you have to ask yourself why it would take so long to get them back. And we've learned this with the Summer Wells case. Summer Wells, it doesn't take that long to get your kids back. If you do what they ask you to do, it should not take a year and a half to get custody of your children. If you genuinely want your children back, it should not take a year to get your kids back. When you push into a year, that leads me to believe you did not want your children back. And that's just my assertion and my opinion. Because if you have free time on your hands, whether you work, don't work, go to school, take a trade, whatever, you vehemently want your children back, you will do whatever you have to do to regain custody. And as I have said to many people, during these streams pertaining to children in the state's care, the state can make a decision about who gets to see the kids and returning children back to the parent or guardian, whomever. That is their choice. If they see that there's something still facetious, nefarious, ill will, they don't have to return the children. And that's something I think a lot of you don't want to accept. It's just like what they say about true crime. You're hearing what you want to hear from the story, but you're not listening to the details. The state does not have to return a child. He or she, whoever is over the case, may see some things, hear some things, learn some things that you are never going to hear and know about, because people are not going to tell you the truth about what they've been doing while rearing the children. Because I can tell you anything. You like me, you believe it. Okay? Even some people are strangers. You're strangers to these stories. But you don't know the people in the story. And we can start bringing in TV shows such as Court TV, news conferences. People sell themselves, just like a designer handbag, a designer shoe. Got to make it look good, sound good. But you really don't know what that shoe is really like on the foot. So this is the same. You don't know people. And I believe there's more to the story pertaining to the biological mother and the custody of the children, baby daddies, this and that. You know, all old news, water under the bridge. These people are never going to tell you the whole truth of how they were living and how it came to be that the child's leg got cracked. Why would they do that? It's just easier to stand in front of a camera and cry and get an attorney and say, I'm really a good person. I've never hurt my kids. I never had a criminal record, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, something was done to the children for them to be removed in the first place. And that's what I bank everything on. You know, not fake allegations, not somebody just mad at you, calling in DHS to make up stuff on you. Because I think if you're living right, the state will investigate thoroughly to see if these allegations are true. And I just believe there was more going on pertaining to this woman's lifestyle to where the state just said, the hell with it. We're done. And one reason the state will be done with you is, as I said, they found out more things about your behavior, your living environment. And two, you didn't comply. So if you're not complying, you're not showing up for visits, you're not taking the classes, the courses, you're not passing drug screens, drug tests, things like that, why would I go out of my way to try to cater to you to get your kids back? I don't have to, because my vested interest is your child. And that's allegedly the state's job. Do the state make mistakes? Of course. But everything bets on a human being's demeanor. Nobody knew that these people were going to hurt these kids, use their kids to hurt the kids. Why would the state think that? Was appropriate protocol followed through in choosing the West family? I don't know. But it always goes back to the beginning as well. The children came from a jacked up situation. And prayer would be, oh, they'll go somewhere better than where they came from. They'll be placed with decent people. But sadly, that did not happen. That's my set information. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign began you 129 Cash App, all stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. That information by pertaining to that lawsuit is AV Press. As the article states, Ms. Dean and her mother had 20 days to, file a second appeal pertaining to the throwing out of the lawsuit. And as you know, the state rarely sues the state. Even if there was some wrongdoing found by a state worker, social worker, whatsoever, the state rarely sues itself. I think most of us know this. Bryan Kohberger. Mercy, mercy me. Woo. We're going to backtrack a bit. My weekend movie is a TV series called Game of Silence. About 6 years old. Now playing on Crackle. Very good series. So if you all want to do a little TV binging this weekend, I recommend Game of Silence. Now playing on Crackle. It's got several episodes, so please enjoy that. Please have a safe weekend. We're going to go back in time because I'm 2 weeks behind on my information pertaining to Mr. Kohberger. But let's start with him needing a second chair to assist Miss Taylor in the representation of Mr. Kohberger. This content was uploaded 3 hours ago by News Nation. Thank you, Miss Hippie.
From the very beginning, we know
Wait 1 second, we'll go back.
We are just months away from the hearing that so many people will be paying close attention to. The man accused of killing 4 college students in Idaho. All were found stabbed to death in their rental home near the university's campus back in November. Now we're learning about changes happening with Bryan Kohberger's defense. Senior national correspondent Bryan joins us live here in Chicago. Bryan, of course, you've covered this from the very beginning. We know Kohberger is supposed to be back in court in June. So what can you tell us about these new developments?
Yeah, so June will be the preliminary hearing where we're going to get a whole lot of new information. It's expected to be about a week long. Witnesses will testify. But what happened this week, which is really interesting, is Kohberger's public defender, her name is Ann Taylor. She has now asked for assistance on the case, and she's asking for a second public defender to be appointed as co-counsel. What makes this tricky is they have to be death penalty certified and qualified to be a part of the case. And there's not a lot of those lawyers in Idaho. So they're still searching for that person to come and assist her with the case. But it shows just what a big case it is. Apparently she can't handle it by herself. She needs a second person.
Okay, so this person needs to be death penalty certified. Does that mean then should we make the natural conclusion that the death penalty is on the table?
I think so. I mean, the prosecution hasn't come out and said it officially at this point, and they wouldn't actually do that until later in the case. So that's not unusual, but all indications are they may likely seek the death penalty. We know that at least one of the victims' families, Kaylee Gonzalez's family, has said they would support the death penalty in this case. Obviously, all the victims' families would likely be consulted. That's normally the way it works. But the indications are now that they'll likely seek the death penalty.
And tonight on Banfield, you will be laying out all the evidence, and there's a lot of it in this case.
Yeah, there's a lot that's come out over just the last couple of weeks with some of these search warrants that were released out of Pennsylvania, all of the items listed. There's also the new information from the prosecutor in Pennsylvania who said that when they went in, I don't know if you saw this was really interesting, when they went in to arrest Kohberger, that he had latex gloves on and that he was taking pieces of trash and putting them into individual Ziploc baggies. Very strange. So we're going to go through everything from the last couple of weeks and lay it out and then talk to experts about what might be going on behind the scenes.
All right. Yes, so many people are going to be watching that trial. We know you will be covering it all, Bryan. Thank you, as always.
Thanks, Nicole.
And we have this reminder for you. Bryan is filling in for Ashley Banfield, filling in all week. You can catch him hosting Banfield tonight at 10 Eastern.
All right, Mr. Enton, News Nation, filling in for Banfield and what's going on with her. All right, let's chop up what was said there. This is going to be a little lengthy pertaining to Mr. Kohberger. Please go back to the beginning of this live to get the said information and the sources. Miss Taylor needs a co-chair. Obviously, she cannot handle this case alone. So who will be the designated person? Because we already went through the riffraff of her representing one of the parents, a few of the parents of the decedents, throwing out Xana's mom in lieu of now being his attorney, Mr. Kohberger, which is some messy, grimy shit I've ever seen in my life. Excuse my language. And now she needs a co-chair. So who will be the lead, Miss Taylor or the co-chair? Common sense would say she would have to be the lead because she's the one needing the co-chair. This is the same shuffle we had in the beginning pertaining to this case. This is the most bizarre case I've seen. It's bad enough these kids were butchered by this thing. Allegedly, he's the killer. And now we've got her needing a co-chair because she can't handle it alone. We also now have information about him putting evidence into separate Ziploc bags and putting trash out when he was back home before being arrested, which is very peculiar because it's one thing to be going taking trash out and dumping it in your neighbor's trash bin. But why are you what's the word I'm looking for? Designating them in different bags. It's very strange. So exactly what was he putting in the different bags? Because DNA is DNA. Okay? You're not throwing away the silverware. So what is it? Paper plate? What? I'm confused. What exactly was he putting in the damn plastic bags? This guy is goofy as hell. I mean, it's like, it's bad enough what you've done to the kids. You would believe he is the suspect. But now you hear all this old extra stuff. And I'm going to bring you more information pertaining to what's seized from the parent's house. It's just bizarre. Whether he's OCD or not, it just adds more layers to an already jacked up situation. Let's go ahead and finish this nonsense pertaining to Kohberger. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, man. Also, by News Nation, BTK killer likes the attention resulting from the Idaho killings. The daughter says, and I'm really getting kind of tired of hearing about Mr. BTK and that daughter. I don't know, just something about all that extra talking and people trying to compare them. And I've had about enough of that. I don't even want to really go into all that. But feel free to check it out by News Nation. This content was uploaded 5 days ago pertaining to Mr. Kohberger. We can't wait until June. Expert applauds unsealing of Kohberger warrants. News Nation is the source. Thank you for joining me. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Thank you all for the kind words. God is good. Thank you so much. Glad to be back.
In the Idaho murder investigations, defense lawyers for the accused killer are fighting to keep that gag order in place. Bryan Kohberger's defense team filed the opposition with the Idaho Supreme Court yesterday. The gag order claims restrictions are needed to protect Kohberger's right to a fair trial due to, quote, twisted media coverage. The move came days after 30 news organizations asked the court to overturn that order. The lawyer for the News Coalition argues the order violates the right to free speech. It also prevents the victims' families from having attorneys speak to the media on their behalf. The attorney for one of the victims' families filed a separate motion to clarify the gag order because they say it's too vague. Meanwhile, we are getting more clarity on what exactly police found when they arrested Kohberger at his parents' Pennsylvania home, after authorities unsealed several warrants this week. A Glock 22 handgun with 3 empty magazines, a knife, and black gloves were among the dozens of items taken in connection with the stabbing deaths of those 4 Idaho college students. For a deeper look into what these latest developments mean for the case, we're bringing in former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
Let's start with that gag order, basically barring attorneys, law enforcement agencies, other associated with the case from talking or writing about it. What are the benefits of limiting information surrounding the case to the public? And if the gag order remains, could this actually leave room for misinformation to proliferate?
Well, I think the gag order will stay in place, and I think it's important that it does stay in place. Really, it protects not only Mr. Kohberger and his rights, it also protects the rights of this case being justly coming to fruition for these victims. And what happens when there's a free flow of information from attorneys, from witnesses, from lawyers, it ends up getting tried in the press. And moreover, it also causes a possible tainting of a jury pool. So I think the Supreme Court in Idaho will keep this gag order in place.
Meanwhile, this week, authorities unsealing several warrants that show the items that were seized from Kohberger's family home, including a knife and black clothing. I want to get your initial reaction to some of those items. What are you reading into that? Is there a high probability that these items were directly involved with that night?
Well, I don't think they were directly involved with that night, but they certainly are interesting. We've got a mask, we've got the black covering or cap. We've got those gloves, the knife, the Glock. I call it a kit bag, if you will. Just have seen this type of material before in offenders such as this, and I thought it was very telling. In addition, I thought it was very interesting, and I'm so glad law enforcement took the gas pedal and took the brake pedal and the cushions within his seat so that they can properly be analyzed for possible traces of blood.
I appreciate that, and that is not a detail that immediately came to my mind. Meanwhile, plenty of people do own black gloves or knives. Could these items just be viewed as circumstantial evidence?
Well, they're circumstantial, but look at the person we are looking at. It's somebody who the court has said there's probable cause to believe he's killed these people. When you add it all together and throw it all together, it does have meaning, particularly, of course, the 3 knives, the Glock. There was other information, too. There was a book that has some underlying in it that's very interesting. We don't know exactly why they took that, but obviously they believe it speaks to possible motive. Also, a letter to the father. These are all things that probably are going to speak to his mindset and possible motive. We cannot wait for June to come.
Now, what do you make of the timing of this? Speaking of June, Kohberger not expected back in court until that month. Why unseal those warrants now?
Well, they have to be unsealed by law. Whenever you have a search warrant such as these, you have tight parameters, and it had to be unsealed, and it was unsealed, and I'm glad that they didn't try to keep it sealed and let the public see the kind of evidence that actually is coming forward on Mr. Kohberger.
All right, Jennifer Coffendorfer, always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, everybody. That's Miss Coffendorfer with News Nation. Let's chop up what was said. If you'd like to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to Jacqueline and Trezell West, trial date being set, and certain information pertaining to hearings and jury selection. As I said, please go back to the beginning of this video to get the said information with the sources. This is a 2-part live. Second part of this live is pertaining to Bryan Kohberger, accused of murdering 4 young people out of Moscow, Idaho. Gag order. Should it be lifted? Should the gag order be lifted? Number 2, a book. Something was outlined in the book. Outline, underline. What is the book? Does the book have relevance to this case? Is there a motive in the underlying of the book or what he outlined in the book? Mr. Kohberger, does it give some significance to motive for murdering these kids? Who was the main object of his affection or non-affection? Maddie, some believe now. I'm going to bring you that information too from weeks ago. Pictures of her in his phone. One would wonder, was she on the saver of the phone, cover of his phone? He liked most of their content on IG. Very baffling information. See, that's the thing about that phone. She leaves a blueprint. Whether you have notifications turned on or not, or your Google turned on, of your searches and this and that, the phone and the computer are deadly. They can be delved into and get the said information of things you've been doing, watching, talking, texting, so on and so forth. Letter to his father. What did the letter entail and when was it written? Was the letter written before the murders or after the murders? Queen would like to know. Curious. Once again, gag order. Should it be lifted? Why should it be lifted? Letter to the father. When was it written? Before or after the murders? The book. What was outlined in the book? Does it give us information to the mindset of Mr. Kohberger at the time? And when did he outline this in the book? How long it's been since he read the book? What is the significance of the book and what was outlined in the book? Who was the object of his affection? Will these murders just happenstance because he was trying to just get it one? And this was his only way of getting to the one. Was going in the house that night and taking them all out because it's brazen nonetheless. No matter who lived in the house, 1 person, 2, whichever. It's brazen to break into someone's house to exact murder. It's just common sense. And the fact that there were always cars, I'm sure, parked in the drive, people coming and going. They've proven that he's been to the house, so he's been watching. He didn't care. He didn't care about seeing parties, people coming and going, girls living there, Pookie Ray Ray hanging out. He didn't give a damn. He picked the time that he thought was less movement to maneuver to go into this house. He made way into this house and he murdered these kids. This is a very diabolical story because your home is your haven. If you can't get solace anywhere, peace anywhere, your house should be a safe haven. to relax, to unwind, to be yourself, to entertain, to sleep, bathe, eat, so on and so forth. And these kids were cheated that luxury on this fateful morning. A Glock retrieved from his parents' house, black gloves. I believe they also said something about a mask. Bryan, what are you doing with a gun, Bryan? Talk to the queen. Maybe one of your girlfriends will be listening to this live and she'll go back and ask you. The queen wants to know what the hell were you doing with the gun? Because this is what went through my mind earlier today when I was going through this information to prepare for this live. I want you all to imagine this here. Imagine how long he's been wanting to, kill a woman or said persons. Imagine how many times he did a dry run of wanting to kill a woman, women, persons. So now listen to me carefully now. Imagine how long he's been plotting to kill someone, plural, dry run. And a dry run could be doing something that's not as bad as murder, such as something Ted Bundy did. He walked up behind a woman and hit her in the head and then, ran off into the night. See, that's a dry run. So has he done anything similar to what he did in that house? Not as deadly, but light in weight, pushed a woman down, jumped her, then ran off just to see if he could get away with it. Because I think about that when they said his car was locked inside of that park. That's the only thing they have as far as a 911 call from Mr. Kohberger in any of his history dealings with the police. The first thing came to mind is him walking, running, lurking in the dark, car parked, locked into the fence, the gate, because he was doing a dry run back then. Out scavenging, walking, lurking, just getting a feel for hunting. Because you got to remember, every killer sadist has to have a start. So some it's lurking in places, brushing up against women, girls, boys, which is however, men. Overt conversations, peeping through windows, doorways, going in women's restrooms, putting mirrors under stalls, if you see where I'm going. So every perpetrator has to have a start. He also, or she, because we have women predators as well, a dry run at some point. Let me see if I can get away with this right here. That's going to do a little something. Nothing too major to get me, 10, 15 years in prison or worse, murder. But let me just do this. Just go up to her, knock her down, hit her in the head, and then just run off. Was he doing that back in Pennsylvania? Because I want to know why he had gloves and a mask at his parents' house and also a pocket knife. I believe that was also mentioned. So we have a gun, a pocket knife. The knife I don't believe is the weapon because they've made it appear that this is a larger knife that killed the kids. So I'd like to know, why does he have a pocket knife? Now, one could say all type of men have pocket knives, guns. Yes, some of them do. But now that we believe that this is the perpetrator, one would wonder why these items are in his custody in Pennsylvania. Just saying. Fascination with knives, blood, gore. Who is Bryan C. Kohberger? How did he come to be this alleged monster? How long has he been plotting death on innocent women, bystanders? Would he have killed more men, guys? You see, he killed Ethan. Ethan's a guy. He's not a girl. This is why I said he didn't care. The fact that a person would plot, watch, break into your house and kill you, kill your friend who's a male guest, he didn't care. And we knew that Ethan's a big guy. He wasn't a short guy. So that would be the hope that he would have been able to go toe-to-toe with this monster. But obviously he was not able to sustain life. This is very interesting information because I've been waiting to hear what was retrieved from the Pennsylvania home. Hello, Shai. Thank you for joining me. So, what else came out of that house? Book, mask, gloves, gun, pocket knife. See, I'm wondering if he was planning on doing a little lurking there. That's where I'm taking this. Welcome all visitors. Thank you all so much for joining me and tuning in to this live stream. The Orson case and Orrin was discussed at the beginning of this live, so you'll have to go back to the beginning, darling, to get that said information. And I do have a source for each information in this live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. You are listening to The Vault XL. Back to Mr. Kohberger. Bryan, we also hear you got some groupies. You got Facebook groups aiding you, that you're innocent. We've got people wondering why are women wanting to be involved with men accused of murder or have been convicted of murder. Why is that? There's a lot of talk about Mr. Kohberger. He's a popular guy lately. Was he planning to do a little something back home? Stay woke. All right, honey. Thank you for listening. See, you all better stay woke because I'm trying to tell you. We've already said this before. There would be a cooling off period after killing the kids. But, what is the cooling off period for a murderer? I don't know because, hell, between Gacy, Ramirez, Jeffrey Dahmer, my goodness, I can't keep up with all of them. They were killing people damn near 2 people a month. So when you start looking at 2 people a month, hell, once a week, that's too many people leaving the earth. So I'm going to ask that question. Was there a cooling off period for Kohberger? Okay? Because I've got a feeling this stuff that was retrieved from the house in Pennsylvania is information, evidentiary to some more chopped up people. Sorry for my wording. Because ask yourself, is this fool stupid enough to have kept the knife, the gloves, the mask, and hat? Because we don't know where he bought the items, where he got them from, how long he had them. Did he buy them a long time ago? Was it some in those same receipts they got from his apartment? Would this fool be stupid enough to keep some of those items that he wore that night to that house in Moscow, Idaho, and took them and kept them in his apartment and or took them to Pennsylvania? And then one would say, if he did, what the hell are you getting ready to do with him, Kohberger, in Pennsylvania? Bingo card. Because we might want to have a little round 2. Imagine that in the Poconos. Bryan Kohberger walking around lurking, looking for new victims, hunting new victims. Got a taste for it. I got away with it. I kind of think they own to me, but I like it. I like what I did. I'm free. You see, the mind can tell you anything. I believe I can fly. So you jump your ass off a building. And then you hit the bottom, realizing you can't fly. You get my drift. So what's Kohberger trying to exact a crime number 2 in Pennsylvania? Because this makes me very leery when they started naming off the stuff they retrieved out of their parents' house. Laptops, computers, phones. What will the phones reveal? What will laptops reveal? Hell, did he even confess to his father that he killed those kids? Or, hey, Daddy, I've done some really nasty things. And as most of you know, Miss Laundrie has decided to come out and speak now about Gabby Petito and her son and why she wrote that little love letter to her son, which is a bunch of BS. It's a bunch of BS. Because there's no sane reason for a mother to ever write anything nefarious in a letter pertaining to harming another human being. I don't buy it. I don't buy that junk. What all was found in the Pennsylvania house, and was Mr. Kohberger going to exact crime number 2 out there in Pennsylvania? Because the fact that he was dividing up bags of evidence to put in the neighbor's trash, lurking around in the wee hours, going into their bins, dumping his own trash, tells you he's diabolical, and he likes lurking around in the damn dark. And now we have items seized that would be exemplary to what he was wearing at the crime scene in Idaho. Hell, why not? Why not have a round 2? This is bad, man. This is really bad. All right, let's finish our commentary pertaining to Mr. Kohberger. Oh, mercy. What kind of world do we live in here? This is bad. All the way bad. Now I can't get my information up. The link is in the chat if you want to give your opinion pertaining to Jacqueline Trezell West. Trial date being set. Seized items from Kohberger's parents' house. And a second chair needed in this case pertaining to Miss Taylor, his attorney. And it is obvious that the death penalty is still on the table because they need a death penalty attorney who has practiced law in that arena. So who is going to be the lucky bird that sits beside Miss Taylor in court with Bryan C. Kohberger? Thank you for joining me. God have mercy on us, I tell you. It's bad, bad business. For some reason, my devices, they're just locking up. All right, everybody. Got 83 viewing. Thank you for your time. How did they even connect Kohberger to the case in the beginning? CCTV footage, eyewitness in the house, the car leaving the scene of the crime on CCTV footage. That's how they connected him. And also DNA on a knife case called a sheath. Touch DNA belonging to Mr. Kohberger is what has linked them to the crime in Idaho. Thank you, T. Thank you so much. I'm good, honey. Sorry about that. I got so much to play you all because I've been behind. This is a very troublesome case. Very bizarre case. Just when you think you can't get more drama from one human being, here comes all this extra stuff pertaining to Kohberger. Oh, I don't understand any of it. Yes, please hit the like button. Join us, everybody. Join us. All right. Let's see what else we can find about Mr. Kohberger. Thank you all so much for joining me. Once again, movie series for the weekend. For those of you who love movies, Game of Silence now playing on Crackle. 6-year-old TV series, but it's pretty good. Please check it out. Okay. Let's see what else we can learn about Mr. Kohberger. Got more juicy stuff. Defense looking for motives and items from Bryan Kohberger's car. News Nation, this is uploaded a week ago. Thank you for your time. Hit the link if you want to give your opinion. Don't be shy. Give your opinion pertaining to Jacqueline and Trezell West. It's a 2-part live pertaining to the Cal City boys and those nasty people who had custody of them, the West family, and Bryan C. Kohberger, bringing you said information pertaining to the latest developments in the case. Thank you for joining me.
From Bryan Kohberger's parents' Pennsylvania home, garage, and car. Investigators seized more than 60 items in all, including a gun, 3 empty magazine clips, and a pocket knife. 2 knives, a Glock handgun with 3 empty magazines, along with a treasure trove of computers, hard drives, and handwritten notes. Just some of the dozens of items law enforcement hauled out of the Pennsylvania home where Bryan Kohberger was arrested late last year. A newly unsealed arrest warrant offering the clearest picture yet of what police were looking for in Kohberger's parents' house, what they found and what they didn't. The very first item listed, a knife, no manufacturer, description, or other details included. No indication if it could be the murder weapon that police are still believed to be searching for, a fixed blade knife, the sheath of which was left behind at the scene of the murders. A Smith & Wesson pocket knife taken from the house does not appear to match the description of the murder weapon. The warrant shows authorities were looking for any signs of blood, bodily fluids, or other DNA, like hair or fingerprints, but no such items were taken from the house. They were also searching for anything that may have belonged to any of the victims, as well as anything that may have indicated Kohberger was watching them or staking out their home. Police did seize 4 laptops, a cell phone, and several other electronic devices, along with dozens of articles of clothing. They also found, quote, a book with underlining on page 118, a green leafy substance in a plastic bag, black face masks, black gloves, and a black hat, which matches the description one of the surviving roommates gave to police, saying the attacker was, quote, clad in black clothing and a mask. Search crews also took, quote, a man's world drawing, a note from Bryan to Montana, and a note from Dad to Bryan. Investigators also tore apart the car Kohberger drove from Washington State to Pennsylvania with his father weeks after the murders, hauling away almost everything inside, including seats, headrests, even the gas and brake pedal. All right, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Richard Block. Richard, thank you for your time today. So we went through that list of items seized, the black clothing, the knives really stand out to me. Is there a high probability these items were directly involved that night?
Well, we certainly couldn't say anything about probability right now. We don't know if those were the knife, if they were the clothing, and obviously we have a long list of clothing that was seized here today. They're going to be looking and trying to match that. I'm sure all that stuff is sitting at a crime lab right now, and they're going over it with a fine-tooth comb, trying to find blood, hair, anything else that might tie it to that crime scene.
Absolutely. Well, some of these items that, it's a little odd because the gun, full descriptions, manufacturer, serial number, but then there are other items. It just says knife or documents. And one that definitely stands out is what we had in that piece there, book with underlining on page 118. Richard, is there a reason some of these items would be described that way, almost to maybe withhold some of the specifics?
Well, that one certainly is an odd one. I couldn't tell you why they wrote a book with underlining on page 118 and didn't give you the name of the book or
right,
a description
exactly.
of what the book is, which they did in other places. They described what sounded like some textbooks and other things and notebooks and other places. Who knows on that one? It could certainly be to hide it, or it could be something as simple as the cover page was ripped off and it didn't have a title on top of the book.
Very good point. How damaging could this evidence end up being to his defense?
Well, I think certainly they're looking for 2 things, obviously, here is motive, and they're looking for any other evidence that ties into the crime scene. Finding blood on some of the clothing would be incredibly damaging, and motive would help with what is largely so far a circumstantial case and tying all those facts together. If they found some sort of writing that indicated his desire to commit murders or something like that, or that would certainly be potentially very damaging.
And what do you think? They took apart essentially the car, right? We know that they took the gas pedal, the brake pedal. Would there be some reason, though, to have kept the car intact?
Well, they're taking it apart because they're looking for anything that might be hidden inside of it. This is the kind of thing what we see often when cars are stopped for drug stops, that the whole car gets torn apart. Because in a car, most normal people don't realize that there are plenty of places to hide things inside a car where you wouldn't normally see them. So that's why they're tearing the car apart. They're looking through it for anything that might be in there or of course, they're also going to be looking for blood and other things that might be found in the carpet or underneath a latch or something like that in the car.
Absolutely. All right, for sure. Thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation now.
News Nation is the source. Defense looking for motives and items from Bryan Kohberger's car. Defense. Well, why would you all be looking for a motive? He says he's innocent. I'm just saying. The gun found. Whose gun is it? His gun or his father's? Is Kohberger a licensed carrier? Permit. Does he have a permit to carry a weapon in the state of where? Pennsylvania, Washington. Will we find out some more dirty dealings pertaining to the gun? I don't know, because I don't know whose gun it is. As this guy is saying about the book. What book is it? Why not name the book? Page 118. What about it? Tell us what it says. Tell us what was underlined. This mess about Montana. Montana the state, or somebody's name is Montana. Who was he talking to? The letter written to the father, what does it say? When was it written? Empty magazine clips, pocket knife, black hat, gloves, mask. Were these the same items worn the night he killed the 4 kids? The mask, is it a disposable mask or the cloth kind that you can wash through in the washing machine? Once again, as I said, was he planning to do more nefarious things in Pennsylvania while on Christmas break? He's cocky, stupid, arrogant, all of the above. What's inside of the car? What evidentiary material was left behind from the murders of that fateful morning? Once again, foot pedals. Who's down there scrubbing foot pedals? Nobody. Not even an OCD by Bryan Kohberger. Because if he tracked in blood, his feet tracked in blood in that house, he got it in that car. So there'll be evidence pertaining to all those victims in that car. Hair on his clothes, getting on the seats, seat cushions. So you got to think about all those types of things. Killing a person, bloody as this crime scene was, you got to be able to pull those things off and get in your car. You're going to get in the car with bloody clothes, bloody shoes. You got to be able to pull the hat off, the mask off, the gloves. What'd you do with all that before you got in the car? So what did he do with all those items before entering his car? Where was his car parked? See, I asked all the pertinent questions. Because who's going to get in a car and drive it bloody? All the way, 15 minutes away? And then we find out he took a little detour that morning. He was very busy, Mr. Kohberger. He's a night owl, is he not? He's a grand lurker. He likes the nightlife. But that is when most dirty deeds are done, is in the dark, the witching hour. What else was retrieved out of the car? Evidence. Did he hide anything in the car? Would he be stupid enough to what? Tear up his car to pull things apart, to hide things? That would be stupid. What? Hide your knife somewhere inside your car? Nah, I don't think he did that. I think he put the knife somewhere that he can go back and pick it up, look at it, revel in it, put it back in its little hiding place. I think that's what he was doing that morning after he killed the kids. Now, once again, the items mentioned in this audio, do they have any relevance to the morning that the children were killed? The clothing. Where are the clothing? Did he dispose of the clothing? The shoes that they keep talking about, those Vans, were they the same shoes he wore on that morning? Was he stupid enough to try to wash the clothes? I believe he bought a pair of Dickies. What color were they? Tan? Brown? Black? What? Navy blue? What all did he keep from that fateful morning worn to the crime scene? And was he trying to exact a crime number 2 in the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you for your time. You are listening to The Vault. Excel. Going to bring you more information pertaining to Bryan Kohberger. Just catching up on old news. Past 2 weeks, I've been incognito. So I'm just bringing you the latest that's been brought forward pertaining to this heathen. Okay. Also, it says a day ago, Bryan Kohberger granted second attorney in murder case. That's also by News Nation. Let's talk about information getting leaked out to the public. And then we're going to go all the way back to who the object of his affection was. Feel free to hit the link. You want to give your opinion. This is your chance to speak, be heard, pertaining to the breaking news and true crime. The opportunity is here. Make it worth my while. Thank you. KREM2 is the source. This was uploaded 8 days ago. Attorneys in Moscow murder case at odds over alleged information leak. Who is our little dirty bird leaking out this information? You do know there's a trial coming up, hopefully. So why are you all talking about this and that and Pookie, Ray Ray? What is the truth to all these leaks? And once again, should the gag order be lifted? God forbid. If it's leaked, if it is lifted, it will probably be worse than the he said, she said we've been hearing as of late. You're entitled to your opinion if you believe any of this. Well, some people call it gossip. I don't know, because I don't know what to believe at this point. KREM2 is the news source. Thank you.
Turning now to the Moscow murder case, newly unsealed court documents are revealing even more disagreement among the attorneys involved, and that includes allegations of leaked information.
Graham 2 Shannon Mowdy combed through that document today and breaks down what we have learned. Shannon?
Yeah, this memo summarizes a January 13th meeting held in chambers where the judge gave a stern reminder of her gag order. The judge was concerned after seeing media reports about the Moscow murder case, including details that shouldn't be public under that order. In the memo, we've learned about accusations of an information leak against one of the top attorneys in the case. This 3-page memo was unsealed with the names of some witnesses and their attorneys redacted early this week. The closed-door meeting January 13th included those attorneys, the prosecutors, public defender, and Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray.
It is an ordinary meeting to deal with an extraordinary circumstance.
Seattle trial lawyer Mo Hammoudi provided some context about why this meeting was held and why we're now seeing the summary unsealed.
You want this case either tried to a jury or resolved by way of a plea agreement once. Cases like this are not only expensive, but the victims' families will be damaged the longer it takes to get through this process.
Judge Megan Marshall called the meeting in response to what she was hearing and seeing in media reports of the case. Hammoudi says this was a stern reminder of the existing non-dissemination order and a warning for anyone who violated it.
There's real concern in this case about information being publicized before it is even introduced in a court of law.
The judge warned violators could be held in contempt and or reported to the Idaho State Bar. Hammoudi says punishments could range from attorneys being fined to having licenses suspended or even being disbarred. In the unsealed memo, Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray claimed information is getting leaked from the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor Bill Thompson denied the allegations. Hammoudi says possible leaks could damage the ability to find a jury or try the case fairly.
Because for it to come into court, it has to be reliable, it has to be relevant, it has to be admissible, it has to meet criteria under the rules. So now you have a piece of information out there that may or may not come into evidence.
So what can we gather from the release of this document? Hammoudi says it shows the judge and attorneys are committed to protecting this highly publicized case, pointing out Thompson and Bryan Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, signed off on unsealing it.
It speaks volumes because they're interested in making sure that the integrity of these proceedings are protected. It's clear.
Creme 2 is one of around 24 news organizations opposing the gag order in this case. The Idaho Supreme Court has been asked to review the decision. Shannon Mowdy, Creme 2 News.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars?
Sorry about that. So KREM2 is letting you know they're also wanting the gag order lifted as well. So let me hear your opinion pertaining to the gag order. Do you feel it should be lifted? Yes or no? And if you think it should be lifted, why? Please give me your opinion. You all aren't really talking much down there. They miss me, but yet they don't want to conversate on the live stream. Explain it to me. I'm just curious. Very interesting. So the defense says it's the prosecution leaking stuff. Prosecution denies they're leaking information. Just like all that he said, she said about what happened the morning of and who got to the house and who grabbed the phone. I can't see the prosecution leaking that. For what reason would they do that? That sounds like somebody that wants to be seen or heard or doing damage control. Either Bethany, DM, or one of their friends' cohorts. I don't know. But I can't see the prosecution leaking all this stuff that keeps coming out. I refuse to believe that. But I don't believe that. Kohberger had one of the victims' pictures in his phone. This was uploaded 2 weeks ago. Thank you for your time. Going back.
Regarding the Idaho murder case, the 4 murdered students in Idaho, Bryan Kohberger in jail awaiting the next hearing in June, a gag order making it very difficult to sort of put the pieces together in this very strange mystery. But we are learning something tonight about Bryan Kohberger and his predilections. On his phone, according to People Magazine and News Nation's reporting as well, on Bryan Kohberger's phone, numerous pictures of one of the victims. I had a chance to talk with Steve Helling, who's investigative reporter with People Magazine, about some of the findings regarding that piece of information, the fact that Kohberger's phone had loads of pictures of one of the victims. This is our conversation earlier.
So, somebody who's very familiar with the investigation says that after they arrested Bryan Kohberger, they took his phone, which of course is what you would expect. And now that they've been looking at his phone, they have all of his communications. They have all of the things that you would have on your phone. And one of the things that they looked at were the pictures. And there are pictures of at least one of the victims in his photo roll. We don't know the details of those pictures. We don't know whether they are pictures he took from a distance. We don't know if they're pictures he downloaded from her social media, but he had pictures of one of the female victims on his phone.
And is anyone pointing to which one of the 3 female victims might be the one who's on his phone?
I mean, we all have our suspicions, and of course the cops certainly know, but that's not something that they're telling. There's a gag order in place. They can't tell us all these details. But yes, it was one of the 3 female victims, and cops sure know who they are. You and I could guess all day, and we probably guessed correctly, but we don't have that officially.
And of course, without even being able to name them, it's hard to push further to suggest, is that person potentially the target of all of this? Like, was there one person who was the target and maybe the other 3 ended up as collateral? Are they saying anything about that?
Well, before the second gag order came along, we were getting, you were getting it, I was getting it, we were getting these tips. And, I think that they had a pretty good idea, even back then, a month ago, of who the primary target was. Whether or not these pictures are of that person, who you and I both pretty much know, remains to be seen.
So what else did they get, or are you able to find out about from combing his photo rolls. Is there any other clue in there?
No, but it certainly seems as though he was, he was very aware of what was going on in this house. We know that. Obviously, besides the photos, we already know that his phone just kept pinging from that area. So, he'd been there several times. So I think the phone is going to be a real treasure trove of information for the investigators, not just from the pictures, not just from, we don't know the texts he sent. We do know, as we talked about a few weeks ago, that he had reached out to one of the girls on Instagram. So, there's going to be a lot of tracks there that they can look at, and, tracks that I don't think that he covered.
There's one line in your exclusive where your source says, it looked as though Kohberger was certainly, quote, paying attention to her. Were you able to read into that any further?
I think paying attention means something more than just, noticing somebody. Paying attention means that you are, purposefully and very deliberately, keeping track of somebody, keeping track of who they are, what they're doing, that type of thing. So there was somebody who was on his radar for a while. And that person, that girl, was unfortunately one of the victims.
All this time we've been trying to figure out the nexus between, this alleged killer and these victims. And the only connection that so far can really be made is the fact that he's a vegan. And Xana and Maddie both worked at the Mad Greek, which is one of the best vegan, restaurants in that area of both Pullman and Moscow. So from what I've heard from my sources in Pullman, if you're a vegan in Pullman, you have been to the Mad Greek many times. It is one of your go-to places. Do we know if there's any connection to the two victims who worked at the Mad Greek, Xana and Maddie, and this photograph?
Sure. Well, what I would say is that, we've reported about a month ago that he'd been to the Mad Greek, and then the Mad Greek came out with a statement that basically said, somebody's trying to cash in on 15 minutes of fame, I think referring to the former employee who had given that information up, but they never ever denied for sure that he was there. They just said somebody is trying to cash in on some fame here. So, I think that we can pretty much surmise that, the restaurant, the phone, all of this type of stuff is something that police have looked into very, very carefully to make sure that they understand kind of the timeline of how did these girls, or at least how did one of these girls, get onto Bryan Kohberger's radar. And she did somehow. Somehow he found her and targeted her, allegedly. And so that was really, what the cops are looking at right now.
And then just one more clarity on your exclusive, and it's pictures plural, right? It's not just one picture. He had pictures plural of at least one victim.
Right. Then that could be 2. That could be 450. We don't know. We just know it's more than one. You can have a picture of somebody on your phone and not be fixated on that person. But more than one certainly means that, whether or not he took more than one, I'm the worst. When I take pictures of my food, I take 4 pictures of it. So, it could have been something like that, or it could be that he downloaded things from her Instagram or screenshotted things from her Instagram.
So that's the other thing, right? Because we don't know if it's downloaded or if they were actually snapped on his phone. There's no way to tell between that. Well, at least they're not telling us. They would know.
They're not telling us, but they certainly know, because every picture you take, it tells, you can figure out exactly where a picture was taken, when it was taken, all of that. And people who know a lot more about computers than I do can figure that out. So you better believe that the cops are doing that.
Thank you for watching.
All right, everybody, that's Bad Feeling, a guest. Kohberger had photos of one victim on his phone. Which young lady was it? Kaylee, Maddie, or Xana? A while ago, when all this mess had surfaced about the killings of these kids, people started sleuthing around and being busybodies. Some people started assuming it was Maddie or Xana because they worked at this Mad Greek restaurant and it sold vegan food. And I refuse to believe that there were no other places in town that didn't have a vegan menu, because there's always going to be vegetables served in a restaurant. Most restaurants have vegetables So I didn't put a lot of stock into it being Maddie or Xana, just because I didn't know anything about Kohberger and I didn't know anything about the victims. And we really still don't really know a lot about these kids, who they are, how they interacted with other people, friends, associates, faculty, staff. Really didn't get a lot of info. But nonetheless, we now have information, once again, information leaked out to the public, that he had a lot of photos of one young lady, I'm assuming. Sure, he had more than one photo. So I'm wondering, did he have one as a screensaver? That's what I was trying to say earlier in the live, and I couldn't get the appropriate word out. Screensaver. Did he use one of these young ladies' photos as a screensaver? Where did he get the photos from? Facebook, IG? What? What is it about this one person he was so enamored with? Did he kill her because he didn't get a response from her on IG? Allegedly, they say he messaged this female. Once again, another leak. Is that true? He messaged one of the girls. She did not respond. He decides to go ham, kill everybody in sight. Why did he kill all the kids? I mean, it's wrong to kill one. But why are you killing all the kids? Because even in the end, if it's because the girl didn't respond, that's not a reason to kill a person. Okay, they didn't respond to you on IG. A lot of people don't respond to people on Messenger because, one, you have to go in your message request to see that somebody messaged you. And a lot of people will see they got messages in IG and they don't want to open them up to even see who the hell the message is coming from. It's not like with Facebook. You have to go in to the menu. Okay? When you're in Messenger, you have to go into the place where it says message request to see who sent you anything, spam or do you know them. One side says, do you know this person? And the other side says spam. So a lot of people don't even go into that. That's why people send people friend requests, because they figure if they see friend requests, maybe they'll go into the message and see that the person messaged them, so on and so forth. So this is just an issue of he was rejected. He felt rejected by one of the girls, the main one he liked. She wasn't interested, never responded, so he went ham. Now here comes the stalking. So did he ever go to that restaurant? The owner says he's never been there, or basically the owner says that she's denying the allegations that he even came in there. So did Kohberger 1 ever go into the restaurant? If he did, how many times did he patronize? Did he get takeout or did he eat in? Was he ever inside of the establishment? Did he hang outside the establishment, across the street, watching, lurking? Did he follow the girls to the restaurant? Did he ever follow them home from the restaurant? This will be very sickening to know these details are true due to the fact that he was a professor's assistant and also in the graduate program in Washington. So you're 15 minutes away. You're supposed to be at school getting a higher education, but you're all the way over here in another state, 15 minutes away, stalking and lurking behind some damn girls because you're a sicko wacko and you don't know how to talk and hold a conversation to meet and greet young women. Because Kohberger could have met women, talked to them in a diplomatic fashion, but because he doesn't have any sensories, there's something wrong with him. He doesn't know how to connect to people. Then he has a problem, because I think he has a problem talking to people in general, not just women. He doesn't know how to talk, period. So he was going to have a problem with anybody with a pulse. Hell, you could be a dog. He would have had a problem with the dog. It is what it is. Who was the target, Maddie or Xana? How many pictures did he have of the said girl in his phone? How many times did he try to reach out to the said girl? Did he ever try to reach out to the other girls to get to that girl? How many times had he been to the house? How many times had he been to the university? Did he go around looking at their schedules, trying to bump into them coming in and out of class? See, it goes a little deeper than just stalking and finding somebody on IG, because now you have to go back to the beginning of this tale. How did he come to see the object of his affection? Friend suggested in IG, went to the Mad Greek, just happened to see a pretty girl, went on the campus to lurk, be nosy, saw the girl walking around. How did he come to fixate on this one particular female? And did this female even know she was being watched, stalked? Because what's amazing about the story is that Kaylee is the one that's supposed to have had a stalker But now we hear that possibly it was Maddie. So what's the truth? Who was the actual intended person? It has also been said from a leak, he liked all of their photos, IG. Well, they were kind of a package, were they not? They all were friends, roomed together, took photos together, did things together. You see one, you see another one. So hell, I like her picture, I like her picture, I like her picture, I like her picture. Very creepy indeed. Because that's what's interesting about this story. If we find out that the object of his affection was Maddie or Xana, and allegedly it was Kaylee that's supposed to have had a stalker, allegedly, but she wasn't the intended victim, Kaylee. It was one of the other girls. Now put that on paper. Because who's to say if Kaylee was just exaggerating about having a stalker? I don't know. We can exaggerate things. Not to say she was a scream queen or anything, but, she might have just been saying, oh, yeah, that guy's always following me around. And, you use the word stalker, but it wasn't, maybe the guy didn't have any ill intent. We will never know, now will we? This is some dirty business coming out of Moscow, Idaho. Real dirty. It just goes to show you how wicked the world is. Bringing you all said information. Uploaded 23 hours ago, Idaho victim Ethan Chapin's former co-workers named a tulip after him. I brought you that information a few months ago because he did work in I think it was a farm that housed, they grew flowers. So that's said information in News Nation. I brought you information pertaining to the items seized from his parents' house. Also, Miss Taylor seeking a second chair to aid her in the defense for Mr. Kohberger. This is also a death penalty running. This case will possibly be a death penalty case. So naturally, the second attorney will have to be proficient in death penalty cases. Also, I brought you information pertaining to the attorneys at odds over alleged information leak. Defense is accusing the prosecution. The prosecution is denying that they have leaked any information to the public pertaining to the Kohberger case. And as I told people, I can't see them doing that. That would make no sense whatsoever. And once again, 2 weeks ago, it said that Kohberger liked all of Madison Mogen's Instagram pictures. And also, 2 weeks ago, Bryan Kohberger had photos of one victim on his phone. That's also News Nation. Just recapping all the information I had. And then the last video I did 2 weeks ago was pertaining to the surviving Idaho roommate never went upstairs. And that would be Bethany Funk. Those are the latest updates. I'm an hour and 32 minutes in. I had dropped the link in the chat for those who wanted to give their opinion pertaining to Jacqueline Trezell West and Bryan Kohberger, bringing you the latest information. Nobody seems to want to chit-chat today, so I'm not going to hold you all because I have to take care of some business tomorrow. I have no idea who's leaking information. I don't know. Did he like Dylan and Bethany's pictures too? Well, they said he did like all their pictures, from what I'm understanding. Let's just play this little bit of information here. This is pertaining to Madison Mogen. This was uploaded 2 weeks ago. News Nation is the source. Thank you for joining me.
News Nation has discovered, and it has sources close to the investigation telling us that the person who is featured on Bryan Kohberger's phone, the female victim who was featured on Bryan Kohberger's phone, is the same person that he was reaching out to on social media. And also that the photos were not taken by Bryan Kohberger, they were downloaded off of that victim's Instagram. So he had taken the pictures from that victim's Instagram. And then I also have this reporting that Bryan Kohberger followed both Kaylee and Maddie on Instagram, but Kohberger liked every one of Maddie's photos. Maddie's on the right, her best friend Kaylee's on the left. Kohberger had liked all of Maddie's photos compared to liking just a couple of the ones on Kaylee's account.
he followed both, but he liked all of Maddie's, and compared to liking just a couple of them on Kaylee's account. So that may give us a little bit more insight as to potentially who it was that he had downloaded and kept on his phone, which female victim's pictures were on his phone. Okay. Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNation now.
Their source close to the investigation. So, as I said earlier in this commentary, the defense is saying that the prosecution is the source of the leaked information that you've been hearing as of late by News Nation. Every time you looked up the past 2 to 3 weeks, News Nation had a version. I just don't want to believe that they would leak this information out, because that would make no sense to have a gag order and then go secretly leaking out information about the case. Because naturally you want this fool to get a fair trial so later nothing can be thrown out or used against him for appeal and blah, 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 if you know the legal system. Because when you're dealing with a court trial such as this, you want to make sure all your T's are crossed, I's dotted. People are telling the truth and jury selection, all that, because this can come back and haunt the case later. Such as you heard with the Peterson case out in California. One jury member didn't tell the truth about being abused. Years later, it's eyewitness news. So then he gets another damn trial. See, people don't think about stuff like that, or hearing to have another trial. And naturally, people are not going to tell the whole truth. It being a jury member, oh yeah, I used to get beat up. Yeah, I used to get high, whatever. If it has any relation to anything in the current case. And then people may have ulterior motives for why they want to be on the jury. I don't know. But this is sickening here, this case here. Because it's, we're talking about the lives of 4 people. They're no longer living. They were killed brutally. They have left behind relatives, friends, heartbroken community, and others who have watched this story unfold the past couple of months. We're now into spring of 2023, March. Time is getting on. Okay, T, that's fine. So, this is serious business. And I just don't want to believe this state would be leaking out information. So I'm going to ask you all this one question before I check out of here. Do you think the gag order should be lifted? Do you think the prosecution is leaking out this information? Naturally, the defense attorneys, they wouldn't leak it out because they would be stupid to leak out anything that could incriminate their client as to be stalking any of the victims. That would be very foolish of the defense to leak out information that he had pictures of the girls on his phone, or downloaded pictures, liked them, followed them, messaged them. That would be very stupid and ignorant when you're trying to save a person's life, and especially with the death penalty being on the table, because this man is possibly facing death for the murders of 4 students. So who is leaking this information is close to the investigation. And when they say close, what do they mean by close? Investigators, ambulance workers, what? What are we saying? Eyewitnesses, friends of friends, people that were left in the house. Only 2 were left behind, allegedly. Dylan and Bethany. So who is our chatterbox that's been running the News Nation with all this he said, she said of pictures, who liked whom, who followed whom, who was at the house, who answered the phone, who called 911, who is the leak box? And why are you running to the news, not identifying yourself? And then we have to ask, what is the truth to all this he said and she said? Now, naturally, we will assume that Kohberger fancied one or more of the girls because they're all dead. So he liked somebody in that house. He favored somebody, but then he turned on the favoritism. It's kind of a jacked up situation. I liked her, but now I hate her. But I don't even know her. We're going to kill her and her friends. Why? Why was the victim chosen? Number one. How did he come to choose the victim? Why did he kill all of the kids in the house on that fateful morning? How many times did he reach out to the victim? Has he also reached out to other women in the same manner through IG, social media, and been rebuffed? Did he also have another hit list of women to brutally murder? So you got to ask all the pertinent questions because, as I said, many people feel like there's a cooling off with a person such as Kohberger. Is this his first time killing people? Would he have done it again? Of course he would have done it again. Once he became comfortable, quiet down, he would have done it again. Now, students say his demeanor changed after the murders, more disheveled, more lenient in his behavior, grading at some point, because he got out what he's been holding on to, which is rage, hate, bitterness. He's a demon. And there are more Kohberger's walking around. So whether you want to give them fancy names such as psychopath, sociopath, incels, in the end, that shit don't matter. He's a demon seed. He's a bitter bitch. And there are more bitter bitches just like him walking around, mad at the world, and lashing out, wanting to take hostages. And this was his way. He didn't get his way with one chick, so he decided to follow her, stalk her and her friends, and then he, on one fateful morning, broke into her house, killed she and her friends. End of story. And that's the sad part of the story, is that 4 innocent children were murdered for no damn reason, and there will be another Bryan C. Kohberger to take his place. It's just a matter of time. You see, you don't know people. And for all these groupies and that girl in Kentucky writing stupid love letters to Mr. Kohberger and wanting to get on social media for attention, as somebody said earlier, these are just random people bored and wanting some sick attention for themselves. Because in the end, that's what you're doing. You're not just drawing attention to Bryan Kohberger. You're also bringing attention to a very lonely, disturbed sense of self. Because what in the world could you see in a person that would hack up 4 kids? Because that could have been you in that house. That could have been you he was enamored, fascinated with, and then hated for no damn reason. So how in the world could you find any type of attraction to this 2-legged creature? And I'm sure Kohberger is very miserable in that jail. Sick as hell, disgusted with the menu choices. Can't get out, can't walk, can't roam in the dark, hunting people. But he is where he deserves to be. And I do believe he is the adequate suspect. I do believe he killed those kids. Whether he had help, conspired with somebody else, I do not know. But I believe he is the sole perpetrator. This is a 2-part live pertaining to Trezell and Jacqueline West trial date set and items seized from Kohberger's family's home in Pennsylvania. And also a second chair has been required by Miss Taylor to aid her in the defense for Mr. Kohberger. Will he get the death penalty? What else will we learn about Bryan C. Kohberger? Will we find out he has stalked other victims? Will we find out he was going to plan to kill others while in Pennsylvania, home on break? What was the purpose of taking those gloves, hat, mask to Pennsylvania? Where are the clothes he wore on that fateful morning? Where is the knife that he used to kill these kids? Idaho, Washington, or Pennsylvania? Will we find out a motive for the murders of these children? And in the end, it really won't matter. like so many murders that occur every day, 9 times out of 10, they are senseless. Rarely are they in self-defense. Just some sick wacko walking around, as I said, bitter, mad, angry, inadequate, and looking for someone to lash out upon. And I believe Kohberger fits this description adequately. And if you are somebody that's homicidal, then I suggest you seek help immediately, because this is no way to live. And you're just shortening your days by walking around being bitter and mad at the world, easily angered. You know, we all have our vices, but when you decide that a person's life is not worthy of living because they're not giving you what you want or what you think you deserve from them, then you have a massive problem. I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for the kind words, kind wishes. Queen is trying to get back on track. Thank you all so much. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome to the live stream. Thank you, T, for modding. When I get more information pertaining to this case, I will bring you an update. There was a Trombada hearing, I believe it was today, pertaining to the West. And I'm trying to understand what the hell's going on with that case. Because in that information I brought you earlier, it states evidence possibly lost or destroyed. And I'd like to know what that evidence is that the defense attorneys are speaking of on behalf of Jacqueline and Trezell West. And the fact that they think this case should be dismissed is bizarre to me, because I believe the state has sufficient evidence against the two. And that district attorney made that clear last year when she came forward with the indictment pertaining to these two. So I don't know what this defense attorneys are speaking about. Evidence destroyed, lost. I have no idea. But I don't see this being thrown out. I don't see this case being dismissed, because it is alleged in that indictment against the two that they aided their children to kill these babies. So therefore, you have living witnesses. So that would be contradictory to whatever evidence you all are speaking of, lost or destroyed. I don't know what they're talking about. Oh, mercy. Hello, Pen. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Hippie. You all have a wonderful evening. Have a happy weekend. Once again, my weekend suggestion is Game of Silence. It is a brief series pertaining to some young men that were in juvie hall together. And they are now adults. And an event happens tragically, and it links them all back together in a very diabolical game. And I'll let you watch it for yourself. But it's a very interesting movie for those of you who like mysteries and thrillers and true crime. Game of Silence now playing on Crackle. Free app, free movie app. Please check it out if you want to have a little guilty binge watching this weekend. And if I find anything else I think that you all would like, I will also put it on my community board. But that is my movie suggestion for the weekend, since I came in late on the weekend to do this live stream. But once again, this is a 2-part live with a source. You're entitled to your opinion of the said information. This is a commentary channel where I give my opinion on the said source and related news. Thank you all for your time. God bless all of you. Please stay safe this weekend. You have been listening to The Vault XL. Thank you.